We have already explained the concept of Viruddha Aahara as well as wrong food combinations as per Ayurveda. Now let's explain the different types of food incompatibilities that have been explained by Charka Samhita. Desha Viruddha, dependent on place. This means when the dietary habit contradicts the type of climate we are in, even if the two are of similar qualities. Like for example, having something dry in a desert can lead to an increase in Vata and Pitta. Kala Viruddha, dependent on season. This means when the food we eat contradicts the weather, for example having something cold in winter can lead to an increase in Kapha. Agni Viruddha, dependent on digestive fire. This happens when we eat food that is too heavy for the body to digest or eating very light food when the digestive power is too high. Matra Viruddha, dependent on dose. When some foods taken in a certain dose can lead to incompatibility, like ghee and honey in equal quantities is not recommended by Ayurveda. Dosha Viruddha, dependent on humor. This means when one already has an aggravated dosha but eats food that aggravates it more, like people with a kapha aggravation eating curd at night. Satmya Viruddha, dependent on habit. This means when one is used to a certain kind of diet but changes it for something that is exactly the opposite, like people who have a diet that is hot start eating foods that are cold in nature. Samskara Viruddha, dependent on processing. Cooking certain foods for too long or even simply cooking them can make them bad for us. Ayurveda warns that eating curd or honey can make them poisonous. Virya Viruddha, dependent on potency. Like having food that have cold potency with something that has a hot potency. Koshta Viruddha, dependent on bowel. Like giving something that has a strong laxative effect to someone with a strong bowel movement and giving something that has a weak laxative effect to someone with a weak bowel movement. Krama Viruddha, dependent on order. Having foods in the wrong order can make them incompatible, like having salad after a meal which makes it hard to digest. Avastha Viruddha, dependent on situation. When the food becomes incompatible because of the situation it is eaten in, like having a meal right after exercise or even sex. Paka Viruddha, dependent on cooking. This is when the food is undercooked or overcooked, or when something is wrong with the method of preparation. Samyoga Viruddha, dependent on combination. When the combination of the food is all wrong, read all about is here. Sampad Viruddha, dependent on quality. Eating stale food or food that is rotten can lead to trouble in the body. Vidhi Viruddha, dependent on method. When the food is not eaten properly, like when someone rushes through food, it could lead to indigestion and other problems. Hrudya Viruddha, dependent on taste. When the taste is what makes the food incompatible, like when someone throws up after eating something bitter. Parihara Viruddha, dependent on prescription. When someone takes in something that goes against something else that has been prescribed to a person, like eating something unfavorable despite having an allergy. Upchara Viruddha, dependent on treatment. Eating something that has specifically been told to avoid while undergoing a certain treatment. So these are the different kinds of Viruddha Aahara as per Ayurveda. Now let's go into detail about one of the most important types of Viruddha Aahara, the wrong combination of food. More about that in our next post. Stay tuned.